dinner in the crock pot.
You sit down, little bud.
She can wander around, it's not a big thing.
The next thing you know, she'll be in your lap. Sit down. Sit
That's
down.
okay, that's where my dog thought she belonged, even though she was big.
Sit down. Sit down. I know. This seems like a.
Does she need to go to the bathroom?
I think she's a.
She needs to find a spot to be
Can
content.
lay down.
Is it right here?
Is anybody else hot or is it just
There
me?
you go.
I was sweating, but I think it's just me.
It definitely feels way cooler in here
Oh
than
my
it
God,
did
you're
outside.
sweating.
There you go.
Embarrassing.
Yeah, she's loving you.
Well, it's not
Face off.
showing,
Wipe-
actually.
Yes, it is. Wipe your face off.
Mine? Oh, yeah, I'm sweating like crazy, yes.
Yeah, I'm not showing, but you are.
Oh, well,
Don't get this in the interview.
don't do
These are
this.
the bloopers. No, it's
Yes.
Oh, no, I get
well, you
treated
know-
for Lyme and I get these I'll just get drenched with sweat.
Oh, no.
My hands all broken out.
Oh no. I thought nobody had one.
Still glistening?
So all right. So obviously you know why we're here. How did you hear that Adam Brown had been arrested?
A friend called me.
And how did you react?
Shocked. And just that it's resurfacing again after all these years kind of instantly brought back some old emotions. And then just horrified at what had happened to this poor child. Because I think the justice system failed him. Not that we could do anything about it, because I think they did everything they could within the law at the time. But when you're dealing with child victims, going to court is a very traumatic experience, and often it doesn't have the right outcome. So sometimes a plea deal is the very best you can do. And at that time, it was believed that he would die in jail of the virus, the HIV.
Because it was believed that he was going to die in jail, did that help make his sentence somehow more acceptable? That the notion that, okay, it isn't a 50-year sentence, but he really is very sick and he really is going to die, he's never going to get out.
It helped, but at the same, again, there were mixed feelings, because I knew that with the justice system we have now, that was probably the best we were going to get, but not nearly what he deserved. And I guess I wanted everyone to know what he had actually done. And with the plea deal, that chance was gone. But also it guaranteed that he would stay in jail. And when you take small children to court, there's a chance that he would be found not guilty. My daughter was only 3 by that time. And I'm not sure that she could have even been certified as a witness.
That was at the
age.
time of the trial.
Well, she was 2.5 right at the time. She went to grand jury twice before her 3rd birthday.
And so I would imagine as a parent, your perception of this is, and as a member of law enforcement, that this is particularly grating, to use a horribly weak adjective, both outcome and situation.
Yes.
As her daughter, what happens to you? What do you think when you hear that Adam Brown has been arrested? Does this, what goes through your mind?
Are you talking about this time or the original thing? You know, and I've said this before, the saddest part of this whole issue is that what he done to me has left horrible effects, mentally, with panic attacks and depression and anxiety and everything like that. And so to deal with these things 20 years after the fact and still have lingering effects of what he did is horrible, and to know that what he had done to me wasn't enough to make him stop, but to have him do it to somebody else and have somebody else, have to go through the same emotional trauma was the hardest thing, I think, when I heard the story. Because the physical scars will heal, but the emotional ones don't.
What was your first thought when you heard what had happened in Portland? Who did you think of first?
You know, actually, I came home and my mom was on the phone, and I asked her if she was talking to you, and she says, "It's the News Review. Adam Brown attacked a boy." And at that point, I was just like, he what? And at that time, all I had known was he had stabbed a boy. So I was like, okay, I pray to God, and I know this sounds horrible, but I pray that maybe it's only physical right now. Maybe he didn't sexually assault him, because being physically assaulted, you can get over that. You know, emotionally, it's still very rough. But to add the sexual assault in it is just, it's heinous. It's the absolute bottom of, I mean, just the nastiest thing you can do. And to, you know, hear that another kid has to endure what I did is horrible. And so yeah, the worst part for me was knowing that there was a sex crime, and it was, you know, it was planned, and it was thought of, and that he would continue doing what he'd done, and that he wasn't punished long enough, and this could have maybe been prevented, I feel. So
And hopefully there aren't other victims out there that no one knows about.
He was here in the Roseburg area from 2004 through 2010.
Yes, I think he's only
I've
been
seen
gone.
him a few times.
You have.
I have. He lived not too far away. Because I moved into an apartment actually, like a half a mile away from where he lived, and I'm not kidding. When I drove down the streets, I could have sworn I've seen him, you know. But it's like a nightmare because you don't know. Oh my gosh, is that him? And so you have this constant like fear, and his face is in my head. It is there, and it's a horrible sight, you know. And so sometimes I'd be driving and I'd see somebody look like him, and it would just panic attack right there. Hot, sweaty. It was just horrible feelings that came back, and so.
Did Roseburg forget? Obviously, you didn't forget, and you didn't forget, but that he was living here for such a long time?
I don't think people really
unremarked
realize the
on.
severity.
I don't
of-
think people realized.
Okay.
And that he was actually wandering free. I believe he had a monitoring device on for at least quite a bit of the time he was here. I'm not sure how long that continued.
I was aware of that. Okay.
I think he did. You might check that.
Okay.
Because I think he got a probation or parole violation for being at a playground.
Okay.
So you might check that out.
Okay.
No, a lot of
But I don't know about Portland if he had any kind of supervision.
Well, and I don't think that a lot of people that I was friends with or had my peers and everything, I don't think anyone had ever even heard about it. And so for this horrible thing to happen, to be on national television, and for people not to know about it, was kind of like, you never heard of that?
But they were all
Like,
children at the time too.
right.
In elementary school, I mean, from preschool through elementary school, we had a problem because she wasn't allowed in certain people's homes. She didn't get to come home and play with kids because people knew about it. And they always worried about the AIDS issue, even though we'd had her tested repeatedly. We had people pull out of daycare because she was there, and again, excluded from other children's homes at times. So that was hard for her because she didn't understand.
Lost friends. I was on a competitive gymnastics team for years, and I know that a few of the girls in gymnastics had quit or had, you know, different emotions towards me. They weren't, you know, my friend anymore, and I was only a little girl, so I had no idea why people were different and why, you know, these people didn't like me anymore. Nobody wanted me to come over and play. I wasn't allowed anymore.
When they learned about what
Right,
happened. Okay.
because, you know, despite the facts that stated Daniela does not have HIV, that didn't matter to people. They heard the word HIV and Daniela, and they put them together, and they didn't take the, you know, they didn't realize that I didn't contract the virus, and that's what's so awesome about this story, if there's any blessing in the story, is that he didn't succeed in giving it to me. So that's what irritates me, and that's what I had the hardest time with growing up, is that I, you know, by the grace of God, did not contract the disease, and I think that people were ignorant and not understanding that that's why it was in the news, and that's why it was an incredible story in a way, because I'm a survivor, and that's, you know.
He tried. He cut her fingers and rubbed semen in the cuts. He injected blood
Directly into my
from
veins.
his body. He took blood out of his arm and injected it into her. Yeah, he was a sick
And I did
freak.
not contract.
And he told her, once she knew it was safe to talk, she started telling us that Adam say he'd kill me. He mad because he's sick, Adam say he kill me. And so this is the words of a 2-year-old.
And English wasn't your first language, in addition?
I had known Romanian because I
Okay.
was from there.
Okay.
But it was just baby
talk. Okay.
Romanian.
Okay. Okay.
So I did English. Technically, yes, was my Romanian. I guess was my first, but English obviously is my.
So that was
native.
just kid talk, not
Right, it was
okay,
baby
wasn't
talk.
that okay? It wasn't
No,
like
no,
oh,
I
it's
didn't
talk, she won't
fluently-
be able to understand.
No, she was just,
okay.
it's just toddler
Okay.
talk.
Okay.
2.5-year-olds. The words of a 2-year-old.